Flower Files, where we dig into the roots of flower farming and floristry and share just about everything you need to grow with confidence. Today, I'm Liza, and we're tackling a question that I get all the time. How do you water all of this? Or I get what's the best way to water my flower garden? So, whether you're a backyard grower scaling up to a full blown flower farm, or somewhere in between, irrigation is the unsung hero of every thriving bloom. If you've ever found yourself dragging a hose at sunset or watching your flowers droop during a heat wave, this episode is for you. So let's break it down. Why does irrigation matter more than you think? It's so easy to underestimate irrigation until your plants start telling you they're stressed. Too much water, you get rot and disease. Too little, you get stunted growth, short vase life, and really weird colors. And sometimes you even get Barbie doll size flowers. It's kind of funny. So, the goal is consistent, deep, and efficient watering. And that's the sweet spot that builds strong roots and supports those big, beautiful blooms. So, first of all, you need to know your setup, what's your garden type, and what's your water need. So, you're going to start by assessing your space. Are you going to have small raised beds or a backyard garden? You might be able to get away with hand watering or soaker hoses. Are you going to have in ground beds or a great big production field? It's time to look into drip tape, micro irrigation, something that's a little more intense. So, your water needs are going to vary by flower as well. You've got some drought tolerant flowers like yarrow, gomphrena, status. They need far less water than lisianthus or dahlias in comparison. And you don't want to forget all of your seasonal timing. You'll get more water needs during transplanting. You need more water during blooming, and especially during those hot summer stretches. But not all irrigation has been created even or equal. So let's walk through the main options. We're going to do pros and cons. So, first and foremost, most people are probably familiar with hand watering. This is great for small gardens, containers, or your really sensitive seedlings when you're first starting out in the greenhouse. Pro of that, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's personal. You get to see everything up close. Cons, it's time consuming, it can be inconsistent, and it's easy to miss spots, especially when you're watering a row that's 600 feet long. Well, 100-foot rows 6 times over 600 feet. Trust me, it all starts to blend together. And let's not forget the fact that your hand gets sore. Another type of irrigation system is the sprinkler. It's great for grass and it's great for wide, non-specific coverage. The pro to that is you can set it and forget it. The cons is it's kind of wasteful. It wets your foliage. Hello, mildews and other diseases. And it's totally not ideal for cut flower beds. Your flowers don't want water all in them. It's just a mess. So, what do? Another option is the soaker hose, which is great for small flower beds and some of those DIY setups. Pro is it's super easy to install, it's gentle on the plants. Con is it's got an uneven water delivery and it has a really short lifespan. I can't tell you how many times something has come through and chewed that off or chewed it in half. And now I have two ends of a soaker hose and no way to reconnect it, no matter how much duct tape I've tried to use. So enter the drip irrigation method, drip tape or drip lines. It's great for flower farms, production beds, and hoop houses. If it gets cut, you can repair it. So if water goes straight to the root zone, you really don't have a lot of water waste. Some of them are programmable and it's scalable. So if you have 1 row or 3 rows or 50 rows, you can have different zones and you can turn it on. Cons: the initial setup can be a little painful, but it does pay off quickly. So here's what we have learned. A lot of the times people will look at all of our plants and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, how do you water all of this?" We end up doing a lot of hand watering here on the farm. We have 5 acres in production. Half of it is perennials, the other half is annuals. And for many years, I fought with the drip tape irrigation method. Initially, we have landscape fabric, so we would do a real light till, add any type of soil amendments. We would lay the drip tape. We would then put the fabric on top, plant the plants. 2 years in a row, I had issues with something. I'm going to assume it was moles or voles, I'm not positive, that would come through and it would chew the drip tape. Well, the problem was they did that when the plants were 2 or 3 feet tall. So now I can't get to the drip tape, and now I have sections that are flooded. So the following year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this smart. So then what we would do is we would rototill, real light rototill on the top just to break up any of the compaction, add our soil amendments, do all of our setups, drop our landscape fabric, and I pinned the irrigation tape down. I still had things come through. Now, this is before we had a fence, and then foxes would come through and they would beat up the drip tape because now it was on top. They could try to chew through it to get to it because they wanted water. So, trying to figure out how to use drip tape has been super tricky, and you have to have good pressure to be able to get it to come the entire length. If you have the pressure up too high, it'll blow out the end. If you have it too low, it doesn't reach it all the way to the end. So, watering for us has consistently been easier for us to do by hand for most of the sections. There are some water-loving plants that we know that we will add drip tape strategically, but I don't drip tape irrigate my entire field. From a logistics standpoint, it's tricky. For anybody who's a home gardener, I know there's lots of irrigation systems. There's lots of ways to help your flowers and your plants and everything do really well through the season. But that in itself comes with a lot of maintenance, upkeep. There's all kinds of boxes and sunken things. I mean, realistically, you're putting water and electricity under the ground because most people don't want to see it. And then you have all of these different zones. And then I've done private gardening for many, many years, and it always seems like there's different sections each year where the irrigation has had some type of issue. So there is a maintenance and upkeep component to it. The good thing is the electricity that runs the irrigation is very low voltage. So it's not super high voltage. You don't need commercial licensing for some of those systems. So when I'm talking about electricity and all of those things, we're talking about timer boxes, we're talking about zones, we're talking about ways to push things through some of the different systems. So you can have a very simple irrigation system where literally you connect the hose to that zone, you turn it on, you have a timer, it's finished, you turn it off. Or you can have it be more advanced where you have the systems, where you have the different zones and installations. So it really depends on what you're looking for. I want to take a minute and talk about hoses because you have to have the right tool for the job. And I know this sounds like a little bit of a detour because if you're hand watering or using soaker setups, your hose matters a lot more than you think. So I want to break down hose types and what they're best for. You can go to Lowe's, you can go to Home Depot, you can go to Tractor Supply, you can go to just about any of your garden centered stores, and there's a myriad of hoses there. You've got garden hoses. and they're the most common, but they can be kinky, they can get twisted, they can be heavy, and they can sometimes be made from chemicals that are made from materials that may leach a couple chemicals. So it's not great for edible flowers or organic setups. So you want to look for lead-free drinking water safe hoses if you're growing anything that's consumable. Plus, you want to look for hoses that aren't going to kink. Man, I can tell you there's nothing that's more frustrating than when that hose has a kink in it and you're in the middle of watering and you're 70 feet down the row, but the kink is all the way back at the first 2 feet. You got to stop, you got to uncoil it, and then you got to, and then you end up wet. I always end up wet, but so some people like the expandable hoses. And the thing that's nice about them is they're lightweight, they're easy to coil, and they're great for small gardens and patios. Really, really simple. They're not super durable and they're not ideal if you're watering daily or dragging them across your garden or across the farm, but they definitely do have a place. And then you've got your soaker hoses. These are the porous varieties and they slowly seep water along their length and they're good for established beds tucked under and in hedgerows. Just make sure you pay attention so that if they get cut, damaged, or anything happens to them, you're not gushing water out the end and missing the whole point of the soaker hose being used. You want them to lay flat and you want to maybe tuck them under mulch or use landscape staples to hold them into place. But they can be tricky, and if your row is too long, you can end up with uneven flow. So watch those. You've got flat drip soaker hose tapes or drip tapes. It's kind of like a budget friendly cousin to a full drip system. These hoses lay flat, are lightweight, and release water slowly at intervals. And it's great for seasonal growth or pop up beds. Last but not least, you've got coiled hoses, which are super compact, good for tight spaces, and good for greenhouse use. They're not ideal for great big beds, but if you're just watering a few containers or flower starts, they're wonderful. One of the hoses that we tried this year was actually so it was like $100. And I was like, oh, it's got like fireman grade quality, like this great advertisement for it. It's actually really hard to use. So it's great once it's filled. And I was really surprised with how often it kinks. And another thing when it comes to hoses, because we're going from hoop house to hoop house to hoop house and then up and down the different flower rows, we use quick connect connector pieces. So instead of having to screw the piece onto, and listen, I know it sounds like we're being lazy, but after you have disconnected your fifth hose of the day to the same spot, it can get a little, I don't want to say irritating, but sometimes it's just easier to click them together and go. So we use the quick connect pieces. They come in plastic and in metal. But the biggest thing to remember with those is make sure in the winter you take them off and you get them out because any type of water that's left in between will crack them apart. So another thing to think about is you want to pair your hose with the right nozzle or wand. And I love a good long reaching watering wand with a really soft shower head. Dram, Dramm, Dram makes some of the best nozzle heads because they have literally it's like 1,000 holes in that head. And it's such a gentle flow that you never have to worry about anything getting floated out if you water it, correctly. It basically mimics rain and it's super gentle on seedlings and anything else that's delicate. Plus, it has a really good output of water. So, I also like the nozzles that I can click into place. So, I'll hold it and then there's a lock so that I don't constantly have to hold it on. It stays on by itself because, newsflash, your hand gets tired. So, when and how often should you water? The golden rule: you want to water deeply and you want to water less frequently. You want those roots to grow down, not across, and not hover at the surface. So, early morning is ideal. It reduces evaporation and gives plants time to dry off, which reduces disease. So then everybody usually asks me, okay, how often? So every 2 to 3 times per week in most climates during heat waves or when establishing transplants. And you always want to water based on conditions, not the calendar. If it's humid and cloudy, you might need less. Dry and windy, time to top up. Spring, when it's low humidity, a little bit of a breeze, that is some of the most evaporation. And that's when we have to water sometimes twice a day, the little seedlings in the greenhouse. So here's a couple tips that we swear by at Wildly Native. You can install a timer on your irrigation system to take the mental load off if you're growing on a scale where that would work for you. I sometimes have to set reminders on my phone. That helps me remember, oh God, I didn't turn off the hose. um, you can use a moisture meter if you're not sure when to water. Your eyes can trick you a little, your tools don't. So you may look at something and go, oh, that looks great. But if you're not watering deep enough, maybe your bottom section isn't getting enough water. So make sure you're actually touching the soil and digging around a little bit. And you're going to want to group your plants with similar water needs. Don't mix your water lovers with drought tolerant varieties in the same bed. It's just not going to end well. And you want to keep your system clear, and you want to make sure everything is clean. I can't tell you how many times nozzles on hoses for watering have gotten a little funky from algae growing on them. Water, sunlight, things just laying there. Algae naturally will grow. So if your nozzle head isn't working correctly, you may want to double check that. You want to flush out your drip lines, and that can help you avoid clogs, especially if you're using well water or pond water, especially pond water if you're like recycling your water. So I think the bonus tip would be mulch, 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 mulch as much as you can. Gives your garden a water saving blanket. And if you're a florist growing your own blooms in pots or small beds, don't skip the irrigation. You've got drip kits that exist for containers too. You can go high tech self watering planters. You've got smart irrigation apps. You've got moisture retaining potting mixes. It all helps stretch the time between watering, and that will help keep your stems strong and vibrant. So, while there's no one size fits all when it comes to irrigation, there's one thing that's consistent, and that is to water wisely, and your garden will reward you tenfold. Whether you're just starting out, you're starting to scale up, or you're a full fledged flower operation, getting smart with irrigation is one of the best investments you can make. Your flowers will thank you. If you loved this episode, don't forget to follow us, share it with us, and share it with your fellow flower loving friends. That's that 10 times fast thing that I struggle with sometimes. And hey, if you want more tools and tips like this, you can always grab one of our free guides on the website. It's waiting for you at wildlynative.com. Until next time, stay blooming and water like a pro.
Hey guys, just dropping a line to tell you about Patreon.
So I asked them, meaning Mom and Amber,
what is Patreon anyway? Because I honestly had no idea. So we're going to explain it to you from our perspective so that you understand and so that I understand.
Because the first time I saw it, I was like, Patron, we're drinking tequila? Great. So Patreon is for less than a cup of coffee, those fancy coffees that y'all like, a day, you can sign up to become one of our members.
A little family.
Exactly. And what does that get us?
It gets us some freebies, some special episodes that other people do not get access to. You can interact with us on a special platform where we can ask you questions and interact with you. It's tons of fun. Mm-hmm. And even on those special episodes, we might be less censored than we are already. And we're going to have a couple fun ones that we can just kind of throw in there and talk about and laugh and go on tangents and have fun. So I hope that you all enjoy it because we're going to have fun along the way. We're crazy, crazy, crazy excited. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Back to the episode now. Bye.
Gracias.